The locked chest. In 2010, Minecraft was still in alpha. Notch quietly added a single new block to the game, a locked chest. It appeared in worlds without explanation. Players found it, walked up to it, and tried to open it the same way they would any other chest. Nothing happened. The block could not be accessed, and interacting with it simply redirected players to a page for Minecraft 4K, a minimal version of the game Notch had built for a separate game jam. The chest served no gameplay purpose. It could not be collected or used in any meaningful way. It existed only to be found and to confuse, which it did. Minecraft 2.0. Released in 2013, this was the first fully playable April Fool's snapshot Mojang ever built. It was sent to a group of Minecraft YouTubers before any public announcement and presented to look like a genuine major release. Inside the game, pink wither skeletons spawned across the world and burst into heart particles when killed. A red dragon was added, a mob players had been requesting for years. But it functioned erratically, flew through structures, and caused widespread destruction wherever it appeared. A new block, called the Ethos Slab, was added, named after a well-known Minecraft content creator, and behaved differently depending on how it was placed. Chickens had been turned hostile, and would chase and attack players on sight. Coal ore blocks had a random chance to ignite without warning. The snapshot was built to look like a real release from every angle, and the content inside it contradicted that appearance at every turn. The Love and Hugs update. Released in 2015, this snapshot physically altered several core parts of the game world. The end dimension was completely replaced. Instead of the familiar obsidian platform surrounded by void and end stone, players who entered the end found a new landscape with soft terrain, unusual coloring, and a structure that felt nothing like the original. The Ender Dragon no longer appeared. In its place was a passive mob that did not attack. Creepers were retextured in pink and had their explosion mechanic removed, making them wander through the world without any threat attached to them. Bats were given a new AI that caused them to fly in heart-shaped patterns. The splash text on the main menu was changed so that every message displayed was gentle and positive in tone. The game's title logo was altered to reflect the update's theme. Every modification pointed in the same direction, a version of the game where hostility had been quietly removed from all of its systems. The Trendy update. Released in 2016, this snapshot added a wearable item called smart glasses. Equipping them placed a heads-up display across the player's screen showing a continuous stream of in-game statistics. The display tracked things like how many blocks of each type existed within a set radius, how many times the player had jumped, and other measurements that carried no gameplay value. The numbers updated in real time and could not be dismissed while the glasses were worn. The item had a crafting recipe that required materials already in the game, so players could actually build and equip them without any special commands. The glasses served no function beyond filling the screen with data. That was the entirety of what they did. Minecraft 3D. Released in 2018, this snapshot replaced every block texture in the game with a three-dimensional version. Each face of every block was given visible physical depth, surface layering, and structural detail that the standard flat textures do not have. Grass blocks showed raised terrain variation across their tops. Stone displayed visible strata running through its surface. Wood had carved grain render across each face. The change applied to every block in the game simultaneously, making the entire world look fundamentally different from the moment the snapshot loaded. The visual identity of Minecraft is closely tied to its flat texture style, and removing that quality across every surface at once produced a world that was recognizable in structure but deeply unfamiliar in appearance. The Infinite update. Released in 2020, this snapshot added a system for generating entirely new dimensions based on written player input. The mechanic required players to write text inside a book using the in-game book and quill item, then throw that book directly into an active Nether portal. The text written in the book determined what dimension was generated on the other side of the portal. Different words produced different worlds. Different sentences produced different results than the same words arranged separately. The terrain, coloring, atmosphere, block composition, and structure of each dimension changed based on what had been written. Some inputs produced dimensions with recognizable Minecraft biomes altered in unusual ways. Others produced landscapes with no equivalent anywhere else in the game. Some were dark and difficult to navigate. Some had altered gravity or lighting. The book was consumed on use, and returning through the portal brought the player back to the Nether, one block at a time. Released in 2022, this snapshot changed one rule that affected every part of how the game was played. Players could hold only a single block in their entire inventory at any given time. Mining a block while already carrying one caused the newly mined block to drop on the ground immediately rather than enter the inventory. Placing the carried block first was the only way to collect another. Crafting still functioned, but only by placing and collecting materials one at a time through a sequence of individual steps that the normal game never required. Smelting worked the same way. One item in, one item out, before anything else could be picked up. The entire loop of gathering, building, and crafting that Minecraft is built around had to be rebuilt around this single constraint. The vote update. Released in 2023, this snapshot added a functioning vote system directly into the game. Players could propose new rules and put them to a server-wide vote. The rules on offer included options such as reversing the direction of gravity for all entities, inverting the day and night cycle, removing all in-game sound, making all hostile mobs passive, and several dozen other toggleable changes. Each vote required a majority to pass and applied its change immediately to the world once approved. Rules could stack on top of each other as additional votes passed, layering changes until the game behaved in ways that its original systems were never designed to handle. The Poisonous Potato Update. Released in 2024, this snapshot built an entirely new dimension around one of the least useful items in the game. The poisonous potato had existed in Minecraft since 2013, obtainable from potato crops with no practical application beyond being a mildly harmful food source. The snapshot gave it a dedicated dimension accessible through a portal crafted from poisonous potato blocks. Inside, the terrain was shaped entirely around the item. New biomes spread across the dimension, each built from potato-derived blocks and materials that existed nowhere else in the game. New mobs populated the landscape, all designed around the same theme. Structures appeared throughout the dimension containing loot and progression that extended the experience well beyond a single session. New crafting recipes used materials found only inside the dimension, giving players a reason to return and gather resources across multiple visits. The Craft Mine Update. Released in 2025, this snapshot restructured how a world was created and entered entirely. Players did not spawn into a standard overworld. Instead, they began next to a block called the Minecrafter, a new crafting station that allowed them to build custom levels called mines. To create a mine, players added ingredients into the Minecrafter's interface. Those ingredients determined the properties of the dimension generated on the other side. Using chickens and swamp biome materials as ingredients produced a mine filled with those elements alongside a selection of default components. Different combinations produced different environments. Each mine had a clear objective: find the exit and use it to complete the level. Dying inside a mine counted as a loss. Completing one successfully rewarded the player with experience points, which could then be spent on player unlocks that granted new in-game abilities. One of those unlockable abilities was called Shaz Boots, a movement perk that allowed players to charge and perform large jumps while sprinting. Additional unlocks expanded further across a perk tree, accessible from the inventory interface. The Herdcraft Update. Released in 2026, this snapshot removed the inventory entirely and replaced it with a system built around physical control of every item in the world. Blocks and items no longer entered an inventory screen when collected. Instead, they became living entities that existed in the game world, moved on their own, and could be led and commanded by the player. Each one had a health bar and could take damage or recover over time. The standard hotbar was replaced with 8 command tools. The Follow Me tool allowed players to select a block or item and have it trail behind them. The Move tool directed selected entities to a specific location. The Attack and Mine tool could be assigned to a selected entity and pointed at a mob or block to perform that action remotely. The Punch tool functioned like standard block breaking in the base game. Crafting no longer used a table in the traditional sense. A crafting mat could be placed on the ground and blocks commanded into their correct positions on the grid to complete a recipe. Managing a large number of living blocks at once became increasingly chaotic as more were collected. Players described the experience as resembling a real-time strategy game, selecting units and issuing movement and action commands across the world rather than managing items through a screen.